Welcome back to campus, Minute Maniacs. I hope your break was, nowhere near as close as miserable and work-filled as mine was, but we're off of that now. Anyway, I'm Tommy Clutie, and I will be your host of UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. It's been a tough weekend for the Minutemen, but you know what? We're here to break it down, analyze it, and make it all better. Our first segment, Dr. Dennehy, Nurse Sanzo, they're going to come in and tell us what's wrong with the Minutemen basketball team. After that, Liam Byrne comes back from Ireland, and Alana comes back from wherever she was. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the Minutemen hockey team. Coach Micheletto and the boys are slumping, and we got to get them back on track. After that, we are Minutewomen AF, as Alex Francisco and Allie Farrell come on to talk some women's basketball. And as a special treat for all you viewers, John Anderson has come back from Jedi training to face off against Zander Manning in a battle of whether or not NASCAR is a sport. It's a fun-filled show, fast, action-packed, and Victor Cruz is waiting because he wants to get on camera. This is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
All right, welcome back to the show. This weekend, the Minutemen took on St. Louis at the Moen Center. First game back for us fans, and it wasn't a good one as the Minutemen fell 86-75. Here's Coach Derek Kellogg after the game talking about the loss.
I thought the start of the second half, kind of a telltale sign of how the second half was going to go. I made a couple of plays. We didn't execute two kind of quick sets out of the huddle, and we got down obviously quite a bit, and I thought we made a nice valiant effort coming back and fought and scrapped some. And then didn't make some basketball plays down the stretch that we talked about. So obviously we got to get better and improve and still compete. And we're going to go to the drawing board and continue to work and get better and get ready for St. Joe's.
We'll get over it and just get ready for the next game. That's all I can say.
Did you feel like you had to take on a little more, do a little something extra when the team was tough and you scored the 10th straight? And it seemed like you were trying to be aggressive, just trying to do anything to get the spark. Did you feel like you had to do it all to kind of kickstart things a little bit?
No, I don't feel like I had to do it all. It just ended up happening that way. It just happened that way.
We got to do a better job. Definitely have to do a better job. And listen, tell the guys, we're not blowing anybody out. You got to come out here and we're going to try to scrap out some wins. That's the way it is. We have some depth issues. We have some other stuff kind of right there, and we're going to have to figure out a way to fight and claw our way to some victories. That's what it is. I'll be candid and honest. That's where we're at. We're going to have to just keep fighting and clawing.
Obviously a tough stretch for the Minutemen. Now they've lost 5 in a row. I'm here with Tim Dennehy, Phil Sanzo, the doctor and the nurse. Now, guys, I want to start off. What can you attribute this 5-game losing streak to? We started off hot, got a little mucky in the middle, and now it's just been a complete downward spiral. What is the reason for this?
It's complete lack of offense, I'd say, Tommy. I mean, I put it on 3 reasons, which is pretty much the entire offense, but they're not scoring enough points, they're not getting enough rebounds, and they are not consistent at all. This team has only scored over 80 points one time, and it took overtime to do it. Neither of the big men are scoring right now. I mean, T-Berg and Rashawn Holloway, neither of them are scoring. Rashawn Holloway has 5 points a game right now. I mean, it's all right numbers for a freshman, maybe, but it's a big man. You got to get the big man involved. You got to get it down low and create a presence down there. He's not getting the presence down there with the rebounds. Yeah, I mean, there's not enough rebounds on this team. Trey Davis is actually leading the team Dante Clark is leading the team with rebounds right now with 74, Zach Coleman 73, and Trey Davis with 67. That means 2 out of the 3 top people getting rebounds are guards. What is that? What is that? What is that? And there's not enough consistency. It seems as if absolutely no one can stay hot besides Trey Davis. Trey Davis is on fire, and he's the only one that is remaining consistent throughout the entire season so far. I mean, it's Jabari Hines is right behind him, maybe Zach Coleman, but actually not Zach Coleman. Zach Coleman's very inconsistent, and like I said, the big men aren't scoring. They need to shuffle it down low down there, get more buckets. That's about it.
Now, Phil, I want to throw you a little bit of a curveball before we get into the real surprise for this debate. We talk about all the time, we've talked about before the break how they had trouble rebounding, they have trouble down low. Is there any way you think that they can overcompensate with that three-point shooting, outside shooting, or do you think this is just a problem that has to be solved from the inside out?
This is a problem, like Tim said, the consistency, and not just the consistency in how they play, but consistency on who they constantly put out in the lineup. Aside from Dante Clark, Jabari Hines, and Trey Davis, it's kind of a mixed match of who else you're going to see at center and forward. I mean, and Tim focused on the offense. I'll say even the defense, you don't need to be an expert in basketball to know that their defense is very poor. You can see it. I was at the St. Louis game Saturday. It was clear to see that the defense was just leaving wide open holes, especially right under the basket. I saw a St. Louis player, I can't recall a name right now. St. Louis player got right up under the basket. It was an easy dunk for him because no one was around him. It's as if they didn't even know he was there. And I attribute a lot of that to just the lack of consistency in the lineup. You don't have your centers. I mean, you don't have a constant center. That you don't have the constant communication of where guys should be. I feel that's definitely has been a big problem. It's heading down the stretch. Beginning of the season, it was kind of easy. You kind of had the hype. You kind of had people rested. I mean, they had to show talent. Not Trey Davis wasn't the only one putting up 36. You had Jabari Hines putting up 30. Dante Clark putting up 25. So I mean, but now those guys are starting to slow down. You're starting to see the effects of it.
Now, guys, we're halfway through the season, and obviously something's not working. There's that big X factor missing, and a lot of times when things like that don't work out the way they're supposed to, you mix up the lineup. So we've been talking about big men all season. I want your guys' take. Who should we play, Rashawn Holloway or Bergman? Who?
Well, Sean Holloway has played most of the game. He started 14, opposed to Tyler Bergantino's only started 4. But I gotta stick with Bergantino for the rest of the season, in my opinion, because he's the senior presence. And you know this team isn't some team that's going to make the NCAA tournament. We knew that from the beginning of the year. But you could at least make a bigger effort than they're making right now. They're only, I think they're 1-5 right now in 8-10 games. Have done terrible since that started in the beginning of the new year. And I think you need a senior presence in there to keep it going. I think it needs to be one of the two. I pick Tyler Bergantino. If Derek Kellogg comes out tomorrow saying Rashawn Holloway's going to be my starting center for the rest of the season, I'd have no problem with that either. But I think Tyler Bergantino started 4 games, yet he has 20 field goals opposed to Rashawn Holloway's 36 in 14 games. So I think Tyler Bergantino's being a little bit more efficient. And I think obviously I said the senior presence has definitely affected his senior presence definitely has an effect. Now even with center, I think forward has been a big position. Seth Berger, Zach Coleman, Antoine Space has been in there. Forward has been a big position that has had questions all year. Another one outside of the big 3, you have those guys that keep rotating in and out. Once again, I think you put Seth Berger in. He has 115 points on the season. He also is another guy that for a couple years, for this the second year, you're thinking, can Seth Berger make an impact? I think you need to give him a bigger shot, more of a consistent opportunity to make that impact. He has 115 points opposed to Zach Coleman, who has 69. I don't include Antoine Space in this discussion just because he missed the beginning of the part of the season for personal issues, whatever they were, and you could tell. You just watch him; he just doesn't have his feet under him yet. He's just not ready to play basketball. He's missing open layups, open shots. You see, he needs a lot more practice. Unfortunately, you don't have that much more of the season for it, but I mean, it is what it is, and you gotta make do with what you have.
So I just want to apologize. I said Berg. We also have Seth Berger. I don't want to mix up the nicknames, whatever they got going on the team. But so we got a Tyler Bergantino fan.
Yep, yeah, I'm definitely a Rashawn Holloway fan.
He's a Rashawn Holloway fan.
Definitely.
Rashawn Holloway's been the guy for a lot of the season. He's a freshman that Kellogg has a lot invested in for the next couple of years. So Tim,
Yep.
other than the reasons I said, why should we go with Rashawn Holloway?
I mean, well, first I want to highlight exactly what you said. It's the fact that he is a freshman and that he needs to build. We need to build this program around a consistent big man. Besides, I mean, we had Cadillon Lane last year, and he did great. I mean, he's in the D League right now. He's about to be called up to the Spurs. He's doing fantastic. T-Berg, I absolutely loved as Caddy's backup. I loved him. I thought that was the perfect position for him. I thought that was the perfect role for him. I don't think he can start. I don't think that he's good enough to be a starter. I mean, even a 6-man now is all right, but Rashawn Holloway, he's not. He's a freshman. He's young. He weighs 315 pounds on the UMass. That's what UMass is listing him as. Could be more, could be less, but he is, weight is an issue here, and he is a little bit not in the best Division I basketball shape. I think he needs more time on the floor. I mean, the more time on the floor, the more comfortable he gets, and hopefully, he could slim down. He loses 40, 50 pounds. Oh my gosh. A10 is just, they're going to take over. They're going to take over the A10, but he has to put in the work, you know.
So we got Phil going for senior presence, and we got Tim going for building blocks. I mean, Phil, I just want to know, in a season like this where I don't want to say it's lost, but things aren't looking too good, if you're Derek Kellogg, are you playing for senior presence, letting them play their season out, or are you just trying to get the best team out there possible?
I'm definitely trying to get the best team out there possible. I mean, senior president is important, but you heard Derek Kellogg say it in the interview. He said, we're not going to blow guys out. Flat out. This team's not going to blow out teams who have to scrap the victories. I completely understand Derek Kellogg wanting to go into each game with a different lineup, seeing what works. Just sooner or later, you're going to have to figure that part out.
Absolutely. And that senior presence, I mean, that's going to help. That's going to help Holloway through the rest of the season. I think T-Berg is going to guide him regardless of who starts.
And we said from the beginning of the year, this is a transition period from what we're about to see these next 4 years with a lot of really good freshmen coming in. So it's one of the things you got to bear out.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Obviously, this UMass basketball team is a puzzle, and this is the year where Derek Kellogg tries to get the right places in the right spot. So hopefully things get turned around. All right, don't touch that dial, because right after that, we're going to delve into some Minuteman hockey. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Unfortunately, the UMass Minutemen have had a tough go of it. Our hockey team has not won a game in 2016, and things just got worse this weekend after an 8-0 loss to number 4 Boston College and a 6-4 loss to unranked Vermont. I'm here with Alana and Liam Byrne. Alana, I want to start with you. You were at the BC game. 8-0.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't blame you. 8-0. You have your leading scorer come back. You have arguably your best defenseman come back, and you still get absolutely roadhouse kicked in your own building. Tell us what happened there.
Well, going into Friday's game, BC head coach Jerry York had his chance to, notch his 1,000th win, which is remarkable. But I thought that was all the more reason for the Minutemen to step up and try to beat this team. I mean, very unlikely, but with Kravchenko back, he was going to the game with 7 goals, 10 assists. So, I mean, I was expecting him to come out and, produce, but that didn't end up happening. I mean, from the start of this game, they were just absolutely flat, just no energy whatsoever. The forecheck was terrible, just no spark. They could not produce anything on offense on the power play. So, I mean, it was just a lackluster performance, just sad, actually, and for the largest crowd of the season so far.
And, I mean, do you think, the BC factor had anything to do with it, that this is the number 4 team in the country, or do you think it's just coming out of the gate, new year, flatness?
I mean, I think both. This was a very good team that they were playing. They're ranked nationally, so that's always a challenge. But, I mean, this team just looks like a completely different team than what we saw in the beginning of the year. And they're just not – it's not good.
Now, when situations like this arise, the hot seat always comes into question, and we think who's staying, who's going, and that'd be Coach Micheletto on the hot seat right now. And I just want your opinion. Do you think one, we should have a coaching change, and 2, do you think it would even make a difference at this point?
Well, I mean, in college athletics, I think the head coach is always the first one to go. And I think at this point in time, would an in-season coaching change make a difference? Maybe, maybe not. I think there's definitely going to be a coaching change by the end of the year for sure. But I think if they do it in season, it's not necessarily, a common occurrence, but I think it would maybe light a spark under this team to get them going a little bit. And I mean, Micheletto was quoted saying after the game that they won the 3rd period against BC. I mean, that's just wrong. They were outscored almost 2-1 and could not put a point on the board. So, I mean, it's not looking good for him. I don't know if necessarily it's going to happen, but I think it's going to need to.
Well, things didn't get any better for the Minutemen on Saturday night. They had a chance against a lackluster Vermont team to capitalize. Luckily, our own Liam Byrne was there with the coverage, and he has the story.
UMass comes into this game with high hopes as they look to snap their 5-game losing streak. Vermont visits the Mullins Center for a Hockey East matchup. There we see some young Minutemen fans ready to enjoy the action. Right off the face-off, Ben Gallagher rips a slap shot that is deflected in by Dennis Kravchenko as UMass takes an early 1-0 lead. UVM retaliate as Alex Privatera puts the puck in the back of the net to knock the score up at 1. But once again, the Minutemen would strike back. Patrick Lee on a power play gets a gorgeous feed from Ray Bogozzi, Bogozzi would finish the night with 2 assists. A scary moment for the Minutemen, though, as we take you to the second period. Freshman defender Colin Fryer finds himself on the opposite end of a hard hit by UVM. Fryer was slow to get up and would not return to the ice. Alex Privitera for UVM, though, would cut it to 1 as he scores his second of the night. This would be a UMass final goal before the third, as Austin Pleby takes a page out of Annie's book and says, "Anything you can do, UVM, I can do better." His first of the night and 7th of the season. UMass goes scoreless in the third period as UVM comes back to score 4 unanswered goals and takes the game by a score of 6-4. I'm Liam Byrne, and this is UMass Sports Weekly.
Well, Liam, we saw that package. That was very well put together. First 2 periods, you have something to look forward to. They were up, 3-2 going into the third?
4-2.
4-2 going into the third, and all hell broke loose.
Yes.
What do you think was the key in the first 2 periods that maybe the Minutemen could build off of going into the next game?
Well, there were a lot of penalties in the first 2 periods, both teams, but their ability to take advantage of those power plays. They had 2 power play goals, one from Kravchenko and one from Lee, I believe. And and also their aggressiveness on defense. They really stepped up on defense in the first 2 periods, and they really hustled. They wanted to get after the puck, and they wanted to do everything they could to score. And to do that, you have to get the puck, obviously. But also, goaltending was good. Alana just mentioned during the break for the package that goaltending wasn't that good, but at the beginning of the game, it wasn't too bad. He only gave up 2 goals. But then the third period came, and you know how that ended up.
So before the third period, we had that transition point. You guys saw that huge hit on Callum Fryer, which
that was not nice to see.
I don't know if it changed the game or maybe
it could have
scared some of the Minutemen, but after that, Vermont pops in 4 goals, and next thing you know, game over.
Yeah.
What do you think that hit had for an effect on the game?
I'd say the physicality, obviously, in a positive way, though. UMass stepped up physically as far as getting in on the hits on Vermont. I had a couple of highlights in that package that didn't make it, but there were 2 strong hits that UMass made against UVM, and I think that was a little towards what happened to Colin Fryer as well. But they came into the third flat. Like Alana said before, against Boston College, they were flat the whole game. But they were on fire the first period and second period. But when the third came, it was just nothing. It was just flat. And defense wasn't as aggressive as they were in the first 2 periods. And that's just, then they couldn't stop Alex Privitera of UVM. He had 2 goals in the night and 5 points, I believe. And yes, 5 points and 4 blocks, which was tough to stop, especially for that defense.
Now I want to hear from both of you on this really quickly. Last year we saw the season turn around when Brendan Montour came back. Obviously, he's in the NHL, he's in the AHL now, probably going to get brought up by the Ducks in the next couple years. You don't have that spark. At least we don't see that coming. So, Alana, I want to start with you first. What can happen to change this, to turn this season around?
I just think the players need to build their own confidence. I think they need to take a step back and not focus on coaching so much and try to build team chemistry and get that chemistry back that they had in the beginning of the year. I mean, we saw what they're capable of. I mean, we know this team can score. We know a lot of players were having great years, and I think that those players need to step up, especially seniors and their veteran players. I mean, they got to get their act together, and coaching is obviously going to affect that, but I think as a team they need to come together and turn the season around.
Liam, what can they do?
They started off the season hot, 4 straight wins, and now they're just the same old UMass Minutemen team that we keep talking about year in and year out.
10th place in Hockey
10th
East.
place Hockey East. Yes, the Hockey East is the best hockey conference in all of college sports, but there's no excuse. You come out, you feel the team every night on the ice. You got to be ready to play. You got to score, got to play defense, and you got to compete. You got to compete, be aggressive, and that's really what this team needs to do.
Yeah.
And like Alana said, the coaching should not be a problem. They should just be out there and playing.
Well, thank you guys very much. I mean, it seems this team has really hit a wall when it comes to playing it. It seems like they've been doing that the past couple of years, so maybe Alana might be onto something with the coaching change, but hopefully they can get things turned around and we don't have to use such scary words like that. Thank you guys very much. Now, when we come right back, unfortunately, the good news is few and far between, but we will be talking some women's basketball with Allie and Alex Francisco, so stay tuned. Welcome back into studio. Now, this women's basketball segment is going to end up bad, but there is some good news because the Minutewomen played George Washington in Washington, lost 67-50, but did get out before that giant snowstorm. So, I mean, you're looking for some solace. That probably doesn't give you any, but whatever. So I'm here with Allie and Alex Francisco, who weren't there but got to break down the game. You guys are lucky you didn't get caught in the weather. So, Allie, this team has struggled all year. This team continued to struggle against George Washington.
Right.
And it seems like it's going to continue to struggle.
Yep.
And what was the biggest struggle in this game?
Well, Tommy, the inability for the Minutewomen to score was probably the biggest struggle that they faced. During the second quarter, they only had an 18.2 shooting percentage, and in the fourth quarter, they went 6 for 17 and secured a 35.5 shooting percentage. They never went above 50% for a shooting percentage in any of the quarters that they played in. So that really shows that they really need to work on their shooting during practices.
I mean, that's definitely something that the team should focus on. Now, Allie, we want to focus a little bit on the positive. I mean, there has been one bright spot in this team so far. She showed up again in this game. Can you enlighten the UMass fans as to who she is and why we should love her so much?
So the star player of the game, like it is mostly any game, is Rashida Tambilla. She is the senior forward, and she played the whole entire first half without even coming out of the game. She put up 12 points during the game, which was the most out of any player. And although she only had 2 assists and she had 3 personal fouls, she did show a lot of tenacity during the game.
Yeah, I mean, personal fouls definitely aren't a bad thing. Nice to show some tenacity. But Allie, I want to go back in time a little bit. You're in that halftime locker room. You're down to George Washington. What are you saying to those girls to try and get them going for the second half?
The only thing that I could tell them to do is to play smart. They had 16 turnovers in the first half and 24 in total. And like I had said before, their inability to shoot is just, they need to just take their time with the shot clock that they have, set up the plays that they are playing, and just secure the points so that they can secure a win.
All right, now, Alex, I want to turn to you and look into the crystal ball a little bit. We've been talking about how bleak the look forward is for a lot of these teams, and I mean, can you shed any light on how it could get better for this team?
You know, Tommy, I usually try to be a little optimistic, but I mean, UMass has yet to win a game in the Atlantic 10 Conference. We'll pull up the standings. UMass is 6-12, 0-6 in the conference. So URI's 9-9 overall, 3-3 in the conference.
The epitome of mediocrity.
Right. 5th place, they are not a good team by any means, but they do lead the conference in steals. They will force turnovers. That's something that UMass needs to watch out for. They also have us beat in 3-point stats, rebounding, blocks, shooting, basically every important aspect of the game of basketball they have us beat in. They have 2 great shooters. There are 2 players to watch for. Sharice Wilson, she's 3rd in the A10 with a 16.1% shooting. Samantha Tabakman, she's 13th in the A10. Her shooting percentage is a 13.8%. Both of these girls are ranked higher than our Sierra Dillard, who's 14th, and Bria Stallworth, who's 21st. So our Rashida Tambilla, she's 2nd for rebounding in the A10, yet UMass is 2nd to last in rebounding. How is that even possible? The rest of the team literally needs to step up and start going for these 50-50 balls to try to get some more possessions. We're also last in the conference in 3-point shooting. That's scary. I can't see it coming down to a close game, but if we are within a few points in the final minutes, the only silver lining I can see, the way we can pull out a win, is taking advantage of URI's awful free throw percentage. At the line, these girls cannot get the ball in, and we could really take advantage of that and try to get some possessions back at the end of the game. At this point in the season, these girls have so much to work toward to even think about a winning season. Even being 500, I'm not sure if it's feasible right now. I think the first thing they need to focus on, what's most important, is their team chemistry.
And why do you say team chemistry? That's usually not something that people like to talk about.
Something's definitely off about this team, Tommy. We hear rumors of these girls within the team having problems with one another. That can't happen if you're going to win basketball games. Your team needs to be sound. If the talent's not there, the chemistry needs to be. And right now, skill-wise and chemistry-wise, it's not stacking up. So we'll see what happens. Allie and I will both be there tomorrow to cover the game.
And we will get you that news as fast as possible, because that's what we do. Thank you, girls, very much. I feel like a broken record, but obviously, what do I say every time? Obviously, there's a lot to look forward to, but hopefully it gets better. But really, I appreciate it, guys, and great coverage in that game, especially with the weather. So don't touch that dial, because we do have something special. Zander Manning is going to come on. John Anderson is back from the Dagobah system. They're going to talk about, is NASCAR a sport or not? Because, it is a legitimate question. So stay tuned. As you can see, we changed the studio around because we got a debate segment going. I got Zander, I got John. John first. How was the Dagobah system?
The Dagobah system was great. I caught up with Master Yoda. He taught me how I can, just upon arriving, you got to listen closely, but you can hear the ratings just skyrocketing. It's really hard to listen on the Dagobah system. It's quiet there all the time.
I can imagine.
You got a good signal out there?
No signal.
No, I didn't think so.
That's why.
I imagine it's just like drawing on your own chalkboard and imagining your own sitcom. Not very entertaining.
Day 1, day 2, day 3.
Anyway, we got NASCAR. Is it a sport? Is it not? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys each get an opening statement, each get a counterpoint, each get a closing statement, and then I'm going to vote. Now, John, I know you were upset last time, so hopefully this is a redemption shot.
Well, I do want to touch on that very briefly because, Liam's here, and
oh boy.
I went back, I studied that film, and I just realized how much I got, I don't want to swear, but I got manhandled.
You got maloofed.
So
is this your opening statement?
This is my redemption.
Is that your
All right, here we go. So, I'm going to go with you, John. Start off. We've been hyping you up. Why is or is not NASCAR a sport?
Well, I'm going to change my definition from last year because it was really bad. And when I was researching last year, I actually found a pretty good definition from June Song, which was cited in a Bleacher Report article. And it reads like this. So there are 4 criteria for what is a sport. 1, competition against other participants to win as an individual or team. Number 2, skill and physical training required to succeed. 3, combination of at least 3 athletic qualities required to excel, such as strength, speed, agility, ability to jump, hand-eye coordination,
mind warping,
Jedi mind tricks. And number 4, running or an alternative athletic/physical exertion beyond walking or sitting. Now the first 2, I give those to NASCAR, but I cannot think of 3 athletic qualities required by NASCAR. I mean, you don't really need hand-eye to hold the wheel the whole time. Apparently there's a lot of G-force in NASCAR when you're trying to take that left turn every time, because I mean, this isn't the family minivan you're driving. These are high-powered vehicles that can reach up to 200 miles an hour, almost as fast as me. So you gotta, there's definitely, I could probably put my arms like this for the entire debate and it wouldn't be in it. Actually, I might do that. That'd be a good way to prove my point. So if I keep my arms like this and they don't get tired by the end of the debate, I guess I can drive NASCAR. But there is the crew. Obviously, they have to execute stuff within 15 seconds, but there's really no exertion by the driver besides putting their arms up the whole time.
And the gas pedal.
Okay. How many calories whatever. No, I'll save that for my counterpoint.
So we're set on John's point now. Xander, what's your opening statement?
Right.
Why is NASCAR a sport? Enlighten me.
First of all, I'm going to
change my opinion.
First of all, I'm going to define a sport for you. My definition of a sport is a team or individual activity that brings people together that is able to be kept track of through scorekeeping, bragging rights, and with some sort of sponsor, whether it's corporate or individual. Let's look at NASCAR here. NASCAR, you can keep track of it. First, second, third place. Scorekeeping is right there. Bragging rights, people root for certain drivers. Oh, Tony Stewart won. There you go. Bragging rights right there. Sponsorship. Sponsorship is all over these cars. And, yeah, it's a boring sport. I'll give that to you. I don't follow it myself. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, it's the best sport in the world. No, I completely disagree with that. But people place bets on NASCAR. If you don't call that a sport, then why would you be placing a bet on it?
So betting's a sport now?
Yeah, let him finish.
Betting is part of a sport, is what I'm saying. And yes, it's not in the Olympics, but there's first, like I said, first, second, third, fourth, etc. Those places, there's that in track and field. Are those sports to you, John?
Track, no.
Why not?
I just always haven't really viewed track as a sport.
All right, we're getting up.
That's not really part of the debate.
What about swimming?
Yeah, because
There's first, second, third place.
yeah, I know. I agree.
So is
that's
there in
what
NASCAR.
All right, the boundaries have been set. This is my Berlin Wall.
I'm going to break it down.
And I'm Bono, and I will take it down.
Bono, whatever.
Mr. Gorbachev, take the
So
ball
we
down.
have Zander's technical definition. John's more eye contact, hands-on. This is what I see. I don't see it as a sport. So now, Zander, you talked about betting.
Yep.
We hear John's argument. No athleticism involved, no three physical qualities. Why is he incorrect?
Well, I mean, there's athletical qualities. You got to have endurance to be a NASCAR driver. You got to
Like this?
have the wherewithal to sit there for 3 hours while you're in the car without.
Have you ever seen a movie?
Yeah.
You've seen movies of sport? You got to sit there for 3
Yeah.
hours? You seen Lord of the Rings before?
It's endurance. It takes endurance.
I would argue that.
Well, I mean, if you see
say
like
it doesn't-
Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, it takes endurance. But
I would say watching any movie with Matthew McConaughey and Sarah Jessica Parker.
That's very true. I will give that to you.
That's not a sport. That's just torture.
Let's talk about hand-eye coordination here.
All right.
Yes, it doesn't take
Watch this.
specific hand-eye coordination. What about this, though? What are you doing when you're passing drivers? You got to make sure you're not going to crash into anything. You got to make sure that you're
really,
not going
because
to hit the
Tony
wall.
Stewart took that guy pretty head on.
Which I guess would support the idea that you do need some
Yes.
some pinpoint accuracy on the wheel.
In case someone runs onto the track, I guess you gotta get out of the way. But other than that, I mean, you don't want to crash, but crashes are part of NASCAR. That's part of the sport.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not part of the sport. I completely agree with you. And you just said it's a sport, so
So, John, why Zander had his technical, according to his definition, NASCAR does fit the bill for a sport. Is his definition wrong, or are we just like, is NASCAR just the?
I mean, I think the car is more of the athlete than
I would argue
the
it's
person
the pit
is.
crew, but
Well, the pit crew has to maintain the car, but like I said, it's not just like a minivan. But I mean, how I'm doing well right now. How many? I mean, driving a car. I think the statistic is 70. You burn about 70 calories for every hour you drive a car. I guess there's a lot of stress in taking that left turn, so
Wouldn't that be physical
we'll call it
exertion, though?
90 or maybe 100. That's also what you get from approximately 1 hour of sitting in a sauna. So is sitting in a sauna a sport?
I never said I wasn't.
So you think
It's
sitting
physical exertion, though. You're burning calories. You said
Okay.
it
And
yourself.
Zander, I don't think we've gotten into the G-forces enough, because the type of pressure that these guys take on for 3-4 hours, which God knows how long they drive for that long, God bless their souls. But you get these G-forces pressing down on people for 3 hours at a time. I mean, do you think that's got to count for something?
Of course.
And why?
It definitely is part of the sport. It's obstacles you have to overcome. That's a huge part of the sport. You're going to have to overcome obstacles somehow in every sport. Doesn't matter what sport you're talking about, but that's the obstacles in this sport.
All right, so closing statements. I'm torn right now.
I feel by the definition that I've set forth, I don't know if, I mean, obviously I cited where the definition came from. I didn't write the definition. I don't write the dictionary. But for those of you keeping track at home, the Merriam-Webster definition is, quote, a contest or game in which people do certain physical activities according to a specific set of rules and compete against each other. That's a pretty broad definition. I think this one narrows it down a little and really, really defines what is and is not a sport. And by number 3, combination of at least 3 athletic qualities required to excel. The ones I mentioned, strength, quickness, hand-eye coordination. You're not really moving your hands, so the hands are really there the whole time. Agility, I guess maybe you could argue stamina, but so maybe you could only argue one of those. And by that, while I am giving NASCAR credit, and upon further examination, I do think that it's a bit closer than I previously thought. However, I don't think it quite fits the bill based on this definition.
Zander, throw me one
All
last
right, all
time.
right. One thing I want to point out here, too.
It better be more than one thing if it's going to
NASCAR,
convince me.
but car racing is globally recognized throughout the world. That's something that is
So
huge
is
when
sitting
it
in a
comes to...
sauna.
Of course, but sports are recognized around the world, and that is huge. Another piece of this is there's a winner here. Somebody wins, somebody loses. If that's not a sport, I don't know what is.
All right. I tallied the votes, and I gotta say, this might be a little pretense, my personal bias, but NASCAR is not a sport. Good God, it is not a sport. I'm sorry, I don't agree with your argument. It was well put
I
forward.
don't see your logic at all. I don't
You
see
didn't
your
have
logic
much
at
of an
all.
argument, but what you put forward was
okay. Now he's going to storm off, but let's just
I was
take
thinking
it
about
easy.
it.
And
I was thinking
I
about
do
it.
give you some credit. I do think it's closer than I did previously
All right,
coming into this.
all right. We'll
But
shake
I
hands
just don't
friends.
think
We'll shake hands friends.
I need there to be a ball or a disc or some sort First
You
off,
heard that,
that's
ladies
a
and
They're on
gentlemen?
wheels. They're on
Ball or
wheels.
a disc?
It's not a ball.
Well, I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for tuning
Well,
into our
knock
first
off.
episode back of UMass Sports Weekly. We just
can do
reassigned
NASCAR,
social
Tommy.
media, so you can do NASCAR. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Snapchat, Instagram. There's a Facebook, Periscope. I always tell you to use it, so you should. We'll be right back here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk more UMass sports. Have a great week, UMass, and good night.